The sun had been climbing high in the sky for hours, turning the desert into a vast golden sea of heat and dust. The wind swept across the dry plains, carrying the sharp scent of sage and sun-baked earth. Samuel Hayes, a cowboy of some wealth and standing, rode steadily through the barren land on his black stallion. His boots pressed into the stirrups, and the reins rested comfortably in his hands. Samuel was not like the rough cowhands he sometimes employed on his ranch. He was careful, polite, and carried himself with a quiet confidence that came from years of experience and prosperity. Yet, despite his wealth, he was a man who appreciated the simplicity and beauty of the desert. As he rode, Samuel noticed something unusual in the distance. A figure moved slowly along the ridge, swaying slightly under the hot sun. He squinted, shading his eyes with one hand. It was a woman, alone, walking with the weight of exhaustion pressing on every step. Her clothes were worn and dusty, and her long hair, dark as the night, hung over her shoulders, tangled from the wind. Her pace was slow, careful, as if she were counting each step to save her strength. Curiosity and concern drove Samuel to approach her. As he rode closer, he saw that she carried no water, not even a small canteen, and the sun had left its mark on her skin, turning it a warm, reddish brown. Her lips were dry, and her breathing came in shallow, measured gasps. Samuel knew the desert well, and he understood how dangerous it could be to travel without water. Without a second thought, he lifted his own canteen and called out, "Here, take some water. You look like you need it." The woman paused, startled by the voice. She studied him for a moment, her dark eyes wary but curious. There was a cautious strength in her gaze, a sense that she had learned to trust few strangers. She hesitated, uncertain. But the dry wind and the ache of thirst were stronger than her caution. Slowly, she reached for the canteen, her hands trembling slightly from fatigue. Samuel held it steady, watching as she drank, the relief on her face like a sudden breeze in the desert heat. When she had finished, she looked up and offered a faint smile, one that spoke more than words could. "Thank you," she said quietly, her voice soft but firm, carrying a natural dignity. Samuel nodded politely, tipping his hat. "I'm Samuel. Are you all right? The sun is strong this time of year." "My name is Maria," she replied. "I am fine. Thanks to your kindness. I have been walking for hours, looking for water for my family. It has been difficult." Her words were simple, yet they held a depth that made Samuel pause. There was no complaint in her tone, only quiet resilience. Samuel dismounted, resting his horse, and offered her a shaded spot under a small rock formation nearby. "Sit for a while," he suggested. "It's important to save your strength. The desert can be unforgiving." Maria glanced at the rock and then back at him. She seemed unsure but decided to trust him, lowering herself carefully onto the cool stone. As she rested, Samuel watched her with a mix of admiration and curiosity. She moved with careful precision, each gesture deliberate, as if she were attuned to every detail of her surroundings. The way she brushed a strand of hair from her face, the careful way she adjusted her footing, all spoke of a life lived in close connection with the land. It was different from Samuel's world of ranches, fences, and cattle, yet equally demanding in its own way. They began to speak, at first in small, polite exchanges. Samuel asked about the desert, the plants she collected, and the ways she managed to survive under such harsh conditions. Maria answered patiently, her voice calm and measured, explaining how she found edible roots, herbs, and how she knew where water might be hidden beneath the dry soil. Samuel listened, fascinated. He had crossed many deserts before, yet he realized he had never truly understood the land the way she did. Hours seemed to pass in the quiet company of each other. The sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows over the sand and rocks. Samuel felt a strange sense of connection forming. He was a man used to giving orders, making decisions, and managing wealth. Yet here in the desert, he found himself learning from someone he had just met. There was a wisdom in Maria's simplicity, a strength in her endurance that left a mark on him. Before leaving, Samuel offered her more water from his canteen and a small piece of cloth to cover her shoulders from the remaining heat. Maria accepted both gifts with gratitude. Then, unexpectedly, she looked up at him and spoke with a quiet invitation. "If you wish, you may come to my home tonight. My family will welcome you." Samuel blinked, surprised. It was not a common offer for strangers to receive, yet something sincere lay in her eyes. He felt a mix of hesitation and curiosity. Her home was in a remote part of the desert, and Samuel's world of comfort and wealth was far removed from it. But the sincerity in Maria's voice, the calm strength she radiated, and the shared understanding of the desert's challenges convinced him. "I will come," he replied, tipping his hat once more. "If your family will allow it." Maria nodded, her faint smile returning. "They will. Come when the sun sets." With that, she turned to continue her walk, lighter now after receiving water, while Samuel mounted his horse and resumed his journey toward the distant horizon. Yet, even as he rode, his thoughts kept returning to her courage, her knowledge of the land, and the unexpected kindness they had shared. The desert stretched endlessly around him, golden and unforgiving, yet that evening, it felt alive with possibility. Samuel realized that the encounter had changed something within him. He had given water to a stranger, but in return, he had received a glimpse into a world of resilience and grace that money could never buy. As the sun sank lower, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, he thought about the promise he had made to visit Maria and her family that night. By the time Samuel reached the small rise overlooking the valley where he knew she lived, the sky had deepened to a soft twilight. The air was cooler now, carrying the scent of dry earth and distant trees. Samuel paused, looking at the path ahead. He felt a quiet excitement, mixed with respect. This visit was unlike any he had made before. It was not about business, wealth, or pride, but about trust, shared humanity, and perhaps a lesson in humility. As he descended into the valley, the first lights of the small dwelling flickered in the distance. Samuel's horse trotted steadily, as if sensing the significance of the moment. Samuel himself was quiet, reflecting on the day's events. He had ridden into the desert expecting little more than a journey across sun-baked land, yet he was now about to enter a home that would teach him more about courage, kindness, and the strength of a people living in harmony with the earth than he could have imagined. The anticipation was palpable. Samuel slowed his horse and took a deep breath, steadying himself for the unknown. He had no idea what awaited him beyond the simple doorway of Maria's home, yet he felt certain that this evening would be one he would never forget. In the vast, silent desert, two worlds were about to meet, connected first by a canteen of water, and now by the promise of shared stories, understanding, and the simple humanity that transcended differences in wealth, culture, and life experience. And so, as the twilight deepened and the stars began to twinkle above the endless desert sky, Samuel approached the home of Maria, the Apache woman, whose courage, warmth, and quiet strength had already begun to change the way he saw the world. The evening air was cooler now, and the desert had settled into a calm hush. Samuel Hayes guided his horse down the narrow trail, the small lights of Maria's home flickering ahead like welcoming stars. His heart beat faster, not from fear, but from curiosity and anticipation. He had never visited the home of a family so different from his own. His ranch was filled with wealth, comfort, and certainty. Yet here, in the quiet valley, everything felt simpler, truer, and closer to life itself. As he reached the small dwelling, Maria came forward to greet him. Her face, illuminated by the soft glow of a lantern, looked serene and confident. "You came," she said softly, as if she had expected him all along. Samuel nodded, tipping his hat in respect. "I promised I would," he replied. Maria's smile widened slightly, and she led him through the doorway. Inside, the home was modest but welcoming. The walls were made of wood and clay, and the floors were smooth but uneven, shaped by years of care and daily use. A few simple rugs lay on the ground, and small pots hung near the fireplace. The smell of roasted corn and herbs filled the air, a scent both earthy and comforting. Samuel felt a strange sense of humility enter him. In all his life, he had never seen wealth measured like this. It was not gold or silver, nor expensive furniture or clothes, but in the warmth, care, and love visible in every detail of the home. Maria's family watched him carefully from the shadows. Her mother, an older woman with kind eyes and a steady presence, nodded in greeting. "We are honored to have you here," she said. Samuel smiled politely, bowing his head slightly. "The honor is mine," he replied. He realized that this was a different kind of richness. The richness of connection, respect, and shared humanity. They sat around a small fire, and Maria's mother brought out a simple meal of roasted corn, fresh herbs, and water drawn from a nearby well. Samuel noticed the care in how everything was prepared. There was no rush, no display, only patience and thoughtfulness. As he tasted the food, he felt gratitude, not only for the nourishment, but also for the care behind it. Conversation began slowly. At first, about the day, the desert, and the journey Samuel had taken to reach them. Then Maria spoke about the traditions of her people, about the ways they survived and thrived in the harsh desert environment. She explained how her family worked together, how each person had a role, and how respect for the land and for one another was central to their lives. Samuel listened intently, fascinated by her knowledge and perspective. It was a world so different from his own, yet in many ways, it felt wiser, more balanced, and grounded. Samuel found himself asking questions, not as a rich man questioning those below him, but as a learner, eager to understand. Maria spoke with patience and pride, never condescending, never dismissing his curiosity. She described the plants that could heal, the signs in the sky that predicted weather, and the stories passed down through generations, teaching lessons about courage, kindness, and endurance. As the night grew darker, the fire cast shadows across their faces, and the conversation became more personal. Maria shared stories of her childhood, of learning from her elders, of moments of joy and difficulty. Samuel, in turn, shared small stories of his life, tales of ranch work, of cattle drives, of victories and mistakes. Yet, even in sharing his experiences, he felt a difference. Here, in this simple home, stories were not told to impress, but to connect, to teach, and to honor the past. Samuel realized that he was learning something far more valuable than any business lesson or financial strategy. He was learning about respect, humility, and the power of generosity. The simple act of giving water that afternoon had led him here, to this quiet home, and he understood now that kindness had the ability to bridge worlds, to connect people across differences in culture, wealth, and experience. Time passed quickly. The moon rose high, casting silver light over the valley and illuminating the small home with a gentle glow. Samuel noticed how calm and peaceful everything felt. There was no urgency, no pressure, only presence and connection. He watched as Maria's younger siblings played quietly near the fire. Their laughter, soft and musical. Her mother moved with gentle purpose, tending to tasks without a word, her eyes occasionally meeting Samuel's with a quiet approval. At one point, Maria brought out a small basket of herbs she had collected earlier in the day. She explained how each plant was used, some for food, some for healing, and some for ceremony. Samuel watched, fascinated by the depth of knowledge passed down through generations. He realized that survival in the desert required not only strength, but intelligence, patience, and observation. Maria's family had these qualities in abundance, and they lived in harmony with the land in a way Samuel had never fully appreciated before. As the night deepened, Samuel felt a shift within himself. He had entered the home as a wealthy outsider, expecting perhaps to offer help or simply observe. Yet, he was leaving with a sense of understanding and humility. The richness of life, he realized, was not measured in dollars or possessions, but in community, respect, and shared care. The laughter of children, the quiet diligence of parents, the wisdom of elders, these were treasures far greater than anything he had known. Before departing, Samuel stood to leave, and Maria's mother placed a gentle hand on his arm. "Our doors are open to those who come with respect and kindness." Samuel bowed his head in gratitude. "Thank you. I have learned more tonight than I could have imagined. I will remember this always." Maria smiled, walking beside him to the door. "And I will remember the water you gave today." Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness creates the greatest impact. Samuel nodded, understanding completely. It was a simple truth, yet one he felt deeply in his heart. As he rode back to his own ranch under the stars, Samuel reflected on the night's events. The desert stretched endlessly around him, quiet and still, yet alive with memory and lessons. He thought of Maria's courage, her family's warmth, and the unexpected bond that had formed between them. He realized that he had gained something far more valuable than gold or land. He had gained perspective, understanding, and a renewed appreciation for the simple, profound connections that give life meaning. By the time he returned to his ranch, the first light of dawn was breaking over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Samuel felt a deep sense of peace. He knew he would return to the valley, not out of obligation, but out of genuine friendship and respect. The encounter had changed him, leaving a mark that would last a lifetime. From that day forward, Samuel made it a habit to carry extra water on his journeys, not just for necessity, but as a reminder of the evening he spent with Maria and her family. Every time he offered water or help to another traveler, he remembered the lessons of humility, kindness, and connection. The desert, once just a place of work and travel, had become a place of learning, a teacher in its own right. And though the world outside continued to demand wealth, status, and success, Samuel knew that the true richness of life lay in the relationships we nurture, the care we give, and the respect we show to others. The simple gift of water had opened a door to friendship, understanding, and a life lived with a deeper sense of meaning. In the quiet moments of the desert, under the endless sky, Samuel often thought of Maria, her family, and the night that had taught him more than any wealth ever could. He had come seeking little, yet had received everything that truly mattered.